If you're selling a car and you're asking $30,000 for it, what do you think the chances are somebody's going to say, you know what? I can't give you 30 for that. I'm going to have to give you 40. What? I'm only asking 30. I know, but I think you should have 40. You're never going to get more than you ask for. You have to at least ask for what you want. Hey, thanks for joining me today. I have a question for you. You didn't think you were going to show up and not go to work, did you? Here's the question. Do you think you believe yourself? I mean, do you trust what you say to yourself? Now, think about that for a minute before you answer, because you talk to yourself all the time, and you got to ask yourself, what if I do believe myself? And then what if I don't? And this gets down to just day-to-day things as well as big life decisions. Like, what if you don't believe yourself and you're telling yourself, oh, wait a minute, if I pull out into traffic, I don't have time. I won't make it. The cars are coming. But I don't have time, but I don't believe myself. I'll be okay. So you just go ahead and do it anyway. You could wind up getting hit by a car. What if you thought, I'm on the edge of a building. If I take the next step, I could fall off 10 stories and hit the ground. But you don't believe yourself, so you don't trust your perception, so you take the next step. That could be disastrous. So we tend to believe ourselves. We tend to believe what our brain tells us. We perceive threats, safety, love, animosity, all the things that we deal with in our lives. Whatever we tell ourselves, we tend to believe. Now, that can be a problem if we're telling ourselves things that wind up with us remaining stuck somewhere we don't want to believe. And I'm going to tell you something that you may be in the habit of, a lie that you're telling yourself, but you're believing it, but you're doing it because you think it keeps you safe. It's a lie you're telling yourself because you think it protects you. And let me give you some common examples. I'm not doing this because I don't have time. I'm doing this because, well, it's just the way I am. I can't leave. I'm stuck here because I can't leave. Or I'm here because they'll change. Now think about those things. I don't do what I need to do because I don't have time. Or I'm doing what I'm doing because it's just the way I am. It's just who I am. I don't leave because I can't. I stay because they'll change. Those are some pretty ordinary thoughts. Have you had those? See, I think those are lies we tell ourselves to excuse something I'm going to explain to you here in a few minutes. And when I do, you're going to go, damn it. Damn it. Let's take a look at the I don't have time lie. I don't do this because I don't have time really means it's just not important enough to me, or I would make time. It's an excuse. It's a reason. I don't want to make time. It's not that I don't have time. It's just not important enough to me. And so you need to ask yourself, What's more important to you than doing what you're telling yourself you don't have time for? Something must be more important to you, or you would be doing what you're telling yourself you don't have time for. And we're going to talk about what that is in a few minutes. See, that's a tease to keep you here so you don't go off and do something else. Are you choosing comfort? And if you really get honest with yourself and say, I don't have time, really? You have hours to scroll on TikTok or Instagram, right? You can be on your phone playing solitaire or watching kitten videos or whatever. Scott Jeffries did a piece on self-deception examples, and he said 4 powerful ways we trick ourselves on self-deception. And he describes people telling themselves all sorts of excuses. The individual may say to themselves, okay, I'll just watch TV for an hour, and then they're just down the rabbit hole. However, intuitively, they know that as soon as they crash on the couch, they're done. They're just done. I mean, how many times do they have to do it to know? People get on a diet and they say, okay, I'm not going to eat anything until dinner time, but yet they park the car in the garage and come through the kitchen and graze like cattle. They'll eat 3,000 calories before they ever get in the bedroom and change clothes for the evening. They just graze in the kitchen, nibble this, nibble that, nibble this, and they know they've done it for years. But they continue to do it. Look, self-deception is a self-destructive coping strategy. It's the lie you tell yourself if you're trying to protect yourself from something that you're scared of. And the problem is, it doesn't solve the problem. The problem's always there. It's always there waiting. It may soften the pain and the shame in the short term, but it just gets bigger later. Problems don't get better with time. They just grow, they magnify. And so we live in conflict. We are conflicted. It's called cognitive dissonance by psychologists, and it occurs in everyday life. And cognitive dissonance means when we live with 2 conflicting ideas at the same time. A simple example is, I'm a good parent, and I scream at my kids all the time. So you have both of those ideas in your head. I'm a good parent, but yet I scream at my kids all the time. So you have both of those things, and so that's cognitive dissonance. That's conflict. You hold both of those thoughts at the same time, and that creates what we call dissonance. Now, you can resolve that if you quit telling yourself you're a good parent, or if you tell yourself that you don't scream all that much. Everybody yells sometimes. I mean, all parents do it. I mean, you start justifying it. Or they pushed me into doing it. It isn't me, it's them. They'd make a statue scream. And your brain will work really hard to protect your ego. It'll work harder to protect your ego than it will to fix the problem. And you create these justifications, these things you tell yourself, this internal dialogue, and it's kind of like an invisible GPS. Your life script is your story. We've talked about that in your family. Your family has a life script, so do you. The problem is you write it real early in life, but then you just keep practicing it over and over and over until it is so deeply entrenched that it becomes subconscious. Scripts that you learn early in childhood and early in relationships become unconscious rules that define who you are and what you expect. Coming up, you're just thinking about payoffs as some big prize. Payoffs aren't always positive. Payoffs aren't always healthy. Do you think a heroin addict gets a payoff when they take a hit? In the years since Maura Murray vanished, theories have multiplied, but one small, strange piece of information changed everything. Portions of the original dispatch and 911 recordings from the night she vanished also vanished. Was there a police cover-up? Mystery and Murder, analysis by Dr. Phil. If I was writing a script for a movie, I wouldn't write this. It's just not believable. Available on your favorite podcast app. Subscribe and follow. It's etched on the slate of who you are. Like, people like me never win. Or, I always get abandoned. These are self-fulfilling prophecies. This internal dialogue really sets you up to do exactly what you're telling yourself is going to happen. And there are some red flag phrases you can look for to see if you're actually doing that. If you're programming yourself for an outcome, a preordained outcome. And some of these red flag phrases are, I always. And what I mean about, like, oh, I always get on a diet and then fail, or I always wind up getting stuck with all the work. I never get a lucky break. I never get things resolved in my favor. I have no choice. I mean, I'm just programmed this way. I have no choice. I'm just one of those people that always winds up. That's just my luck. When you say that, you have become a passenger. You've put on your victim hat and you've given up any initiative whatsoever. It's like, I'm preordained here. I'm a passenger. I'm back in row 17 of the bus. I'm not driving. So when that happens, you've let this message that's been etched on the slate of who you are, how you are defined, determine you. Your internal dialogue is telling you what the outcome is going to be before you ever get started. And so therefore, you don't make any attempt to determine the outcome because it's already set. I always wind up this way. I never get a break. I have no choice. That's just who I am. Now, I'll give you some concrete examples. In a relationship, you can say, I never get somebody that really values who I am. I just don't ever find somebody that treats me with dignity and respect or values who I am. Now, when you tell yourself that, who do you think you're going to find? You're going to settle for somebody that does exactly what you just said. They don't treat you with dignity and respect. They don't value you for who you are. If you say, I always find somebody that, I don't know, they're just really not emotionally available, they're broken wings, then those are the people that you're going to respond to. You tell yourself, I always, there's that phrase, I always end up with people who leave. You will spend your life making that true. If you are in a career and you believe that you're just not lucky, you're not someone that gets ahead, even if you're talented, you will always attribute everything to luck. And if it's luck, what's the point in working? What's the point in making sure that you are recognized for your skills, talents, and abilities? Why wouldn't you do it? Because people like you don't get ahead. So you need to do a language audit on yourself. You need to turn your ear inward and listen to your internal dialogue and listen for phrases like I always, I never, I can't. That's just how I am. Listen for those phrases that preordain the outcome before you ever start. And every time you hear one, write it down. Write it down. And ask yourself, what's the payoff for doing that? And what do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. We don't do things repetitively if we're not getting a payoff for it. And you can say, well, now, wait a minute. I don't like getting in dead-end relationships, so don't tell me there's a payoff for it. I don't like getting passed over at work, so don't tell me there's a payoff for it. Well, I am telling you there's a payoff for it. There is a payoff for it. You're just thinking about payoffs as some big prize. Payoffs aren't always positive. Payoffs aren't always healthy. Sometimes a payoff can be toxic. Do you think a heroin addict gets a payoff when they take a hit? If they take a hit of heroin, is there a payoff that keeps them coming back? The answer is yes, or they wouldn't keep coming back. What is the payoff? Well, they get relief from anxiety. They get a high. Is that a positive thing for them? Well, in the moment, they escape reality. They escape life. They get a short-term buzz. Is that a positive payoff? Hell no, it's not a positive payoff. Why? Because it's killing them. They are getting deeper and deeper into addiction. It's eroding their health. It's killing their brain. But there is a payoff there. There is a short-term payoff where they escape reality. And when you tell yourself, nobody ever pays attention to me, I don't get the lucky breaks, I don't get recognition, well, you get a payoff because you excuse yourself from having to compete. You excuse yourself from expecting yourself to put it out there and get that job, get that relationship. You don't expect to get it, so you don't have to be disappointed when you don't, so you get a short-term relief because you never expected it anyway. So what is it I said I was going to tell you that makes all of this sensible, at least to you? All of this allows you to stay in your comfort zone. That's right. It allows you to stay in your comfort zone. Because if you don't expect yourself to go to the next level, if you don't expect yourself to get an exciting, rewarding relationship, then you don't risk the disappointment. Coming up, I have talked to so many people about living in their comfort zone. And they tell me a very interesting fact. Women risking death for showing a few strands of their hair.
She was beaten to a pulp, fell into a coma. 3 days later, she was declared dead. Her death ignited outrage all over the world.
When you've got a regime that is blaming a drought on women and their conduct, it's kind of hard to sit down and have a logical conversation.
The Dr. Phil Podcast.
What happens next? Available on your favorite podcast app. Subscribe and follow. If you don't expect yourself to get the promotion, to get the raise, to get the acknowledgement, then there's no disappointment because you didn't expect it anyway. And that allows you to remain comfortable. Hey, I didn't expect to get that, so I'm not disappointed that I didn't. I never get that. I always get overlooked. So if I don't expect it, I'm not let down when I don't get it. I have talked to so many people about living in their comfort zone. And they tell me a very interesting fact. They tell me their biggest anxiety is not just going for it, reaching for that thing out of their comfort zone. They said, yes, that's very anxiety producing. But you know what they told me was their biggest anxiety? Was that if they reached for that next level, if they reached for that special relationship or that promotion or that raise, that they worried that now they had to keep it up. Now think about this. Stay with me here. Because if you're making $50,000 a year and you get to the next level where all of a sudden you're making $75,000 a year or $100,000 a year, does that put pressure on you? Of course it does, because now you are expected to keep up that level of compensation. And furthermore, don't people who make $100,000 a year versus $50,000 a year, don't they dress different? Don't they maybe drive a little bit nicer car? Don't they maybe have friends who make that much money? And you may be thinking, hey, Dr. Phil, you're a little behind the times here. 50,000 is damn near poverty. I'm just picking a number. Pick your own number. Say 100,000 versus 200,000. If you double your income, are you expected to keep it up there? If you go from 70 to 150 or 100 to 200, are you expected, do you expect yourself and others expect you to keep it up there? If you get a partner who is really sharp and exciting, do you have to raise your game? Do you have to be sharp and exciting? That's pressure. And they go, wow, all of a sudden I can't sit around in house shoes and sweatpants. I got to get in the game. I got to have game. And they have told me, I'm talking about thousands of people that I have talked to and surveyed about this have said, not only am I anxious about reaching for it and failing, I'm more worried about reaching for it and succeeding and then having to keep it up. So I'm safer in my comfort zone. So ask yourself, are you really comfortable in this comfort zone? Or are you afraid of requiring more of yourself? Every behavior that occurs in pattern has a payoff, whether it is a toxic payoff, like safety, avoidance, and denial, or like a heroin addict who gets a short-term high but ruins their health and becomes an addict that ruins their family, their marriage, their kids, everything. So the payoff may be that you don't expect much of yourself. You can avoid responsibility. You can avoid expectation, but it comes at a price. And that price is you're not being who you can be, what you really want, but are afraid to admit. And what's more, you get cheated out of the chance of observing yourself being all that you can be, achieving all you can achieve, doing what you can do. And think about your children watching you. Are you selling out? Are you settling? If you come home from work every day and they say, "How'd it go today?" "Oh, it's terrible." "Why? What was wrong?" "Well, I hate this job." "Well, why do you do it?" "Well, paycheck, that's why. I got bills to pay. I got to feed you guys. You got to have tennis shoes and this and that and the other." You're role modeling for them that you grow up, work hard, get a job that you don't like, and sell out and go through the motions for the rest of your life. Is that what you want to role model for your children? I don't think it is. That's bad modeling. And it's bad modeling for yourself because you're observing yourself doing a toxic job. Just because it's predictable, paycheck. And look, I understand we all have responsibilities. We can't all quit and start flying freight out of Africa and be exciting and beautiful sunset in the background. I get that. But that doesn't mean that we have to settle at every level of our life. Particularly when the price is self-respect and burning daylight. Because trust me, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and then you look back and say, "Oh my God, I spent my life doing something I didn't want to do." Have you asked yourself, am I doing what I want to do? Wouldn't it be terrible if you spent your whole life becoming the best accountant in the history of the world, only to find out that you never wanted to be an accountant to begin with? Or have you spent your life becoming a great pilot, only to find out that you wanted to be a painter? You need to at least ask yourself, what do you want? What are you passionate about? And you can't do that if you live with the lies. If you keep telling yourself, "Oh, all of this, that's not for me. I'm not that person." I tell you, I don't have time. I don't have the money. I don't have the skill. That's for other people. That's not for me. I see people that seem to have it all. They seem to have all the time in the world. They do their job. They parent their kids. They exercise. They're in great shape. I mean, that's for other people. That's not for me. I'm scattered. I barely making ends meet. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have the money to join a gym. That's just not for me. That's for other people. Those are lies you're telling yourself. The absolute most you're going to get is what you ask for. You'll never get more than you ask for. If you're selling a car and you're asking $30,000 for it, what do you think the chances are somebody's going to say, "You know what? I can't give you 30 for that. I'm going to have to give you 40. "What? I'm only asking 30. "I know, but I think you should have 40. You're never going to get more than you ask for. You have to at least ask for what you want. And if you're telling yourself, "I'm just not the kind of person that gets that. That's not for me. That's for other people." No, it's not. It's for you if you ask for it, if you require it of yourself. You have to be willing to take the chance and put yourself out there. And trust me, you don't have to leap tall buildings at a single bound. You don't have to do that because you can set goals. You can set goals that are reasonable and realistic, and you can make small steps and small changes, because small changes add up to big results across time. Because let me tell you something. Even if it's that you want to lose weight, let's say that's a place you want to start. You want to get yourself in shape and lose weight. And you think, oh my God, I'm so far out of shape. I'm so overweight. It's too late for me. Well, you know what? The next 6 months is going to go by whether you're doing something about your weight or whether you're not. And if you lose 1 to 2 pounds a week for the next 6 months, that 6 months is going to go by whether you do anything about it or not. And if that winds up to be, I don't know, let's just say it's 6 pounds a month. In 6 months, that's 36 pounds. And that time's going to go by whether you're doing something about it or not. So you might as well start making small changes because they add up to big differences across time. So I'm asking you, listen to your internal dialogue. Write down those things that are keeping you stuck. Write down the lies you're telling yourself and not challenging. And ask yourself, are those things rational? And there are 4 simple questions to test whether they're rational or not. Number 1, is it based on fact? Is this factual? Number 2, does this get me what I want? Number 3, is this in my best interest? Number 4, does this protect and prolong my life? Those 4 things. And if it fails on any of the 4, throw it out and generate something new that in fact is rational. And then set yourself some realistic goals. The difference between a dream and a goal is timeline and accountability. A timeline. I'm going to achieve this by such and such a time. And I've looked at my calendar very carefully, and someday is not a day of the week. Look at your calendar. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Someday is not on there. So set up a timeline and then identify the steps you need to take to get from A to Z. Like I said, you don't have to leap tall buildings in a single bound. You can take the steps like stepping stones across a stream. And set up accountability, a good friend, your mate, somebody that at the end of each week, you got to look them in the eye and see if you worked on that step that week. Hold yourself accountable where you have to look them in the eye and say, I either did it or I didn't. Just that bit of accountability will help you stay on track. And the goal has to be measurable. It can't just be, I want to be happier. No. You have to operationalize that. What does happier mean? Less time working, more time with your children, more time smiling, less time crying, whatever it is that defines happy. You have to operationally define it. Look, it's time to stop lying to yourself and start telling yourself the truth. You believe what you tell yourself, so let's test it. and make sure it's rational. And don't stay in that comfort zone. You will love it out there. Look, they can't kill you. They kill you, they can't eat you. So take a shot. You deserve it. You don't need it, you deserve it. We'll talk more about this. I appreciate you spending this time with me. It's important that you understand why you do what you do and don't do what you don't do. Once you get a handle on that, you can start making big changes. And the next time we talk about this, we are going to focus on why you do what you do and don't do what you don't do. And you're going to love having that edge. If you like what you hear here, watch me every day on my new network, Envoy TV. Check out the links in the description for more ways to enjoy Envoy TV.